Hello there, and in this video we're going to be doing a quick oil service on the Corsa C. Now, an update since the last walk around video that I did on it. It's been to a local mechanic. I have had the offside rear brake sorted out. He actually took off and adjusted both rear brakes. So that was the handbrake cables, the sort of adjuster inside the drums and everything else. It's lubricated it all up and it's all fine now. There's absolutely no binding at all. I also asked him to take a listen to the chain, and he doesn't seem to think at this stage that the chain on this engine is terminal. So what he's suggested at this stage, rather than going all in and changing the chain, is to do a flush and an oil change on it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And the other thing I'm going to do, having had a browse through the Corsa C forums, is I'm actually going to change the grade of oil that this engine is running on slightly. So I think it's currently running 5W30, and I'm going to swap that to 1040, which seems to be something that's quite commonly used as these engines sort of age and get the mileage thrown up on them. So if you'll excuse my slightly untidy garage, this is what we've got to work with today. So I've got some Wynn's engine flush to begin with, so I need to get the engine up to temperature. Then I need to let this idle for let it idle rather for 20 minutes with this in, and then I'll do a full drain and then a refill. And I've gone for Magnatech 1040. It's a semi-synthetic oil rather than fully synthetic, but I think this for 4 litres off Amazon was only about £19. And given the fact that I may need to do, if a flush does cure it, or a series of oil changes does cure it, I may need to do it more than once. At this stage, I don't think it's worth putting super duper expensive oil in it. So I've run this oil in plenty of other cars over the years and had absolutely zero problems with it. I've run it in a lot of 4-cylinder Volvos and it's always been absolutely fine. And then obviously I'm going to do a filter. Now, it's a bit of a lottery with these engines in terms of which filter actually fits. If you go somewhere like Euro Car Parts, it'll list 2. So what I did was I went onto MANN's site. MANN tend to be the company that I use when I'm buying aftermarket filters. They are the OE supplier for Volvo, so I know they are good quality. And I went through their catalogue, looked up the part by engine number on the Corsa, which I'll include a screenshot of now, and then from there worked out that that was the correct filter. So fingers crossed it is, otherwise I'm going to get halfway through this job and then have to stop and order a new filter, which will be bloody annoying, but hopefully not. And the last thing I've done is I've ordered a replacement sump plug as well, just to make my life a little bit easier, just in case for any reason I strip out the existing sump plug trying to remove it. Now, before I start this job, I am actually going to try cracking the sump plug first. It's a Torx bit, so I want to make sure I've got the right part to do it. And I don't want to drop any engine flush or anything else in this engine until I know for definite that I can get that sump plug undone. So we'll throw you underneath the car, not literally, I just mean the camera, and then we'll get started. Obviously, of course, doing this video, I can guarantee that this will be the longest oil change video on a Corsa C on YouTube, because I don't seem to be able to do concise. I'll also admit now I've got no brake cleaner or parts cleaner, so I'm just going to have to wipe everything down for now. I have got some coming hopefully on Thursday, so I will give everything a bit more of a proper post clean-up afterwards, but for now this is going to have to do. So anyway, again, I'm waffling. I need to see if I can find the suitable bit for that and then get it cracked. Whilst I'm on the subject of Torx bits, I'm absolutely amazed at the number of inverse Torx bits that are on this Corsa. It's funny because I remember back in the day that people used to complain about French cars being awkward to work on because they use different fasteners. But I haven't, other than the exhaust and a few other bits like, you know, maybe the major engine bolts, everything else on this is a, I keep saying inverse Torx, it's probably the wrong expression, but I'm just amazed how many aren't standard parts. That's not cooperating. This is a We're off to a rearing start here already. There we go. Got it freed its thing in the end. That looks like it's probably the right one. So the sump plug is a T40 Torx. Right, let's get my tools deployed. I'm hoping this hasn't been over tightened by somebody. But unfortunately, you never know with these things. Again, I'm not dropping the oil just yet. I just want to make sure I can actually get the sump plug undone. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Yeah, that's going to come out easy. Look, that's not a problem. Excellent. So I haven't got to worry about getting that undone. In fact, it wasn't very tight at all. Okay. Cool. Right, so next stage then is to try and get this engine up to temperature. That's what the Wynn's engine flush recommends before you add it, and then you need to run it for another 20 minutes after that. So let's get on with that, shall we? Well, let's get a bit of ventilation on the go. Fixing this garage door. It's the industry recognised black plastic pipe keeps the garage door up technique. Okay, let's see if I can do this without launching it anywhere. Oh. Right then, so all there is to do now is to leave that to get up to operating temperature for a little bit, and then I'll add the engine flush in. Yeah, like I say, I don't think it fits too bad in that garage, really, all things considered. It's certainly a darn sight easier than getting either of those two beasts in there, I can tell you that much. Right, so the engine's been running now for just over 10 minutes. I'm going to run it for another 5, and then I'm probably going to chuck the flush in and then run it for at least another 20 minutes. You can probably hear now that that chain, or whatever it is at the top, is just gradually starting to get noisier as the oil thins out a little bit. Right, so we're now about halfway on the temperature gauge nearly, and as you can hear, it's substantially louder than when we started. The reason I've put the lights on and everything else is just to try and add a bit of load to the engine. I've got the heated rear window on as well. It's just sort of felt the process of warming things up a bit. Oh, blimey, there is a hell of a leak on that rocker cover gasket. I'm going to try and sort that out before long as well. Marvellous. Anyway, okay, so I think we're almost at the stage where I'm going to knock it off and then I'm going to put the flush in and see how we do. Right, let's see if I've got a funnel residing anywhere. I can guarantee if I don't use one, it's going to be a disaster. That should probably do the job. I don't think on any occasion I've actually used one of these that's not immediately or automatically, it's never not gone everywhere. Right, so there's the Wynn's cleaner. I'll give it a go. Okay. Opening a can of pop in theory, he says. Oh, well that's a good start, isn't it? All over the exhaust manifold. Nice work, Dave. Right, so let's try and do this without throwing any more anywhere else, eh? I was just checking, because I didn't actually check if I was supposed to add all of this or just some of it. It looks like it's all of it, so... Well, it's getting all of it now anyway, let's put it that way. So, if it wasn't supposed to be all of it, oh well. And I might be in for an interesting evening. Oh, yes. And that's now all over my fingers. Marvellous, because I didn't bother putting any gloves on. Because why would I when I've got an ample supply of the things directly to hand? Right, so now I think it's just going to be a case of starting her up again, and I've just got to leave it idling for 20 minutes. Leave that running for 20 minutes now. I'm going to leave the GoPro going so that I know how long I've been recording for, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so that's 20 minutes now of idling with the engine flushing. So I'll knock that off and we'll get to draining the oil out. Right, so I've had a bit of a lamp reposition. It's not quite as bright as earlier, but it'll just help keep things out of my way. I'm going to allow it to cool down for a couple of minutes. I've lifted the dipstick and taken the cap off, and that's a reminder to me basically until I put oil back in this engine not to start it. I think that's a trick that I've seen an American mechanic called Raymond Ray do. In fact, I'll include a link to his channel because I really like his channel. He's just set up in his own shop. He was working for somebody, and if you're into mechanical YouTube videos, I highly recommend you watch him because he's absolutely brilliant. The other thing that turned up whilst I was idling the car, if you'll excuse my terribly messy garage, is this. So this has been recommended to me by, I think it was Autolass on Twitter and somebody else. In fact, I'll pop the names up of the people who recommended it for you alongside there. There we go. And I'm going to drop a bit of this in alongside the Magnatech just to see if it helps quieten down the rattle. Now the recommendation I think is up to 20% or use 20% of the oil capacity of this stuff when dropping it in the engine. So I'm going to have a look. I think I've worked out, I think this is 3.5 litres capacity, so I think 20% of that is around 700 mil. I'll double check that I've got my maths right before I do that, because obviously I don't want to cause any problems at the moment, and we'll see how we'll do. Now, I think these are a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how well they work. It's effectively, I think, a viscosity modifier, but I think it does help sort of coat components and leave oil in various places to help reduce dry starts and that sort of thing. If this was an engine that had variable valve timing or cam phasers or anything like that, I would probably be a little bit reluctant to use this. But as this is a, and no offence Vauxhall fans, quite a low-tech engine, it's fixed cams, I'm less concerned about using this. And there's a very good video, I think by Ford boss Me, who talks about applications for this. And he has perhaps a fairly fair argument that maybe you're better off in most instances just using a higher viscosity oil in your engine. But like I say, I had this recommended to me, and I figured, considering how noisy it is at the moment, it was definitely worth a try. And also the mechanic who had a listen to the chain for me whilst he was sorting the brakes out also suggested trying something like this as well. So given the cost, and I will include a link to this, I should say it's unsponsored, in the link below. I think it was in the video description below, rather. I think it is worth a try. So anyway, I'm going to let this cool down, and then we'll crawl underneath and we'll get draining that oil. Of course, the other reason for taking the I want to say, how much can you actually see there? Yeah, you can see that. The other reason for taking the oil cap off is it does help with the draining of the oil as well. Right. Question is, am I going to be able to do this without getting it absolutely everywhere? How good that light is. So that leather rubber seal on that's gone. Here it comes. Got better off with the light as it was before, I think. Yeah, I was. Like I say, I'm sure this will be the longest Corsa oil change video on YouTube, and because that oil is still absolutely red hot, I am absolutely trying my damnedest not to get it in my hand, on my hands or up my arms, because it's probably going to scald when it does. There we go. Apologies to anybody who's watching this who actually does this for a living or knows what they're doing. I know I'm crap. But, get there eventually, I think. How long's the bloody threads on this damn thing? And why does it feel like it's getting tighter? Oh, don't tell me this has got a cross-threaded sump plug. That will really ruin my day. This feels to me like it's cross-threaded. Just getting tighter. It is coming out though. Fucking hell. Just how bloody long is this? It's like the world's frigging longest sump plug. Is that finally? Yeah, I'm not getting good vibes off this sump plug. I could just be being a bit paranoid, but yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh shit! Bollocks. Oh well. So I've got it all over the exhaust and absolutely all over my garage floor. Nice work there, David. And a little bit on me, but not too much. Oh well, I'll have to clean that up afterwards, won't I? I'll let all that drain out. Lovely. Tell you something now, that oil is like water. I know I put some flush in there, but the oil seems very, very, very thin. Incredibly thin. I wonder whether the last time it was serviced, whether they put 0W20 in it or something. The oil just doesn't seem to be very thick at all. Right, I'm going to go and finish a cup of hot brown and let that finish draining off. I just wish I'd got some brake clean now so I could clean up some of these bits, but that'll have to wait until tomorrow. There you go, you can see the the scale of my miss there. This is typical. I actually bought it in here assuming that working on a nice flat garage would be far less likely for something stupid like that to happen, but like I say, it just roared in so hard it sort of flew up and out of the pan. So at least I know it's probably had a good flush off the back of that, but yeah, what a mess. Right, a little bit more hot brown. Oh, it's better. Right, so I think the next thing I'm going to do is get the sump plug back in first, so I don't forget it. I've actually got a brand new one, so I'm going to double check that against the thread. It does actually feel about the same sort of length, so that's maybe just how they are. I'll whip that in and then we'll get the oil filter out and see if I've going to have problems with that today or not, because if it's the wrong one, well then frankly I'm in trouble and I'm going to have to stop. Just see if I can get... Sometimes you can encourage a tiny bit more out with your finger. That sounds slightly wrong, doesn't it? Yeah. It's encouraging a little bit more oil out. I would say this oil looks a lot dirtier now that I've done the flush, so I'm hoping that means it's actually done something. I don't think significantly much more is going to come out of that, to be perfectly honest with you. So let's give that a good wipe down, and then I'll try and get my other sump nut on the go. This is of course assuming it's the right one, because at the moment the other one is currently in the the tub of doom. Maybe I should have opened this before I had oily gloves. Oh, has it got a rip bit? Yeah, looks like it's got a rip bit, but I still don't know if I'm going to be able to rip it open. Oh, oh! Can I get that out? Is it coming? Oh! Is it going to? Oh, I think I'm nearly there. Oh, no, I'm not. Right, okay, we're back in a moment. Aha! Success! I have managed to retrieve it from said packaging. Right, let's see if this one fits. See, the reason I bought another one is because they've actually got like a, I don't know if you've had to see, they've got an inbuilt rubber seal on them. So I didn't really want to reuse it, and for the sake of a few quid, for me it made sense to drop a new one in. Oh, the thread on that feels quite tight, and that's a worry for me. Yeah, the thread on that feels very tight. Very, very tight indeed. I think I have a horrible feeling this has been threaded at some point. I'm just not getting the vibe that this is going to do up nicely. Okay, I think I'm going to have a look at the thread on the other one before I commit to fitting that, because I may just transfer the rubber seal. Let's drag that out, take a look at the other one. Alright, so I've just grabbed the old one. I'm just going to see how it feels going back in. It's similarly, in fact, if anything, that's tighter. Yeah, I think it might just be how they are. It doesn't feel particularly nice to me, but then again, I thought that taking it out, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's just how they go in. It must just be a tight thread. So, like I say, I've still got some concerns that I think this may not be the healthiest thread in the world on this, but I guess I'm just gonna have to go with it. And if I thread this sump, well, then I'm in for a weekend of absolute misery and phone calls, let's be honest. I'll have to see how we do. Right, where's me? I suppose I'm going to find out quite quickly whether or not it goes in or not. It seems to be going in straight enough. I wonder if it's, looking at it, I wonder whether the threads are designed to work in that way. Yeah, it's almost like it gets tight and then gets easier afterwards. I don't know. No, I don't think that's gone in. I think that's just threaded. Oh God. Oh no. Oh shit. Oh, fuck. Yeah, this is threaded. I don't think this is gonna work. Try the other one again. That is not good. This might be about to put me in an absolute world of crap. In fact, yeah, it is. I can see it. Yep. Oh boy, I'm in trouble now. GoPro, stop recording. Right then viewers, slight disaster occurred there. So the very top part of the thread has indeed been knackered. So what I've just done as an emergency measure for now, and this may not hold, it may not work out, I've got to say, is I have just dropped a crush washer that I'd bought for the V70 in front of the plug. So that's now basically pressed up against the block, and then I've got the seal and the crush washer sort of in below, and I'll have to see whether or not that is sufficient to stop it from leaking oil. It may not be, so unfortunately I might have to put another sump on this, which is a real bugger. I just don't want to over tighten it anymore. I've had a crack out of it, that's good enough for me for now. So yeah, I'll put some oil in and we'll have to see if this leaks, and if it does, well, it's bad news. But at least even if it's dropping oil, if I can put some oil in it, I'm then at least in the position where I can move it around, get it out of the way, get it out of my garage, and then I'll just have to put a drip tray on underneath it or something and then come back to it later. So yeah, we'll have to see. So yeah, like I say, I've dropped that crush washer in, put a bit of pressure on it, but I don't want to push it too hard because, like I say, the annoying thing is it's the very top it's the very top part of the thread on the sump that's gone. So the threads leading up into the sump are fine, but it's the bit at the very, very top that's obviously gone bad and been cross-threaded. So like I say, hopefully that's enough for now just to keep it sealed. But if it isn't, well, looks like I'm buying a sump and doing that, which will be nice for me. So I can see me this weekend just going out to a car dealer and buying my sister a car with a warranty and just giving up on this for now, because if I've got to start throwing sumps and goodness knows what else at it, then I've cocked up, and I just need to call it a day on this particular little project, and I think I'll have to just get her something else. So right, now that drama is out of the way, let's see if I can get the oil filter done, and let's see if that's even the right oil filter. Now I thought I'd have a quick look at the oil itself just before I go any further, see if there's any twinkly bits in it. I actually can see one or two bits. Slightly really. Oh, fuck! It's just not turning into my day, this isn't. Right, okay, let's try and do this without either throwing the GoPro or anything else in there. Just having a look for any excessive sparklies that might indicate that that there's problems against the cam cover or anything like that. I can't see anything, so that's reassuring at least. Yeah. Oh, what's that? That's interesting. Oh, that might be from something else. No point panicking about that. Right, let's get that oil filter off. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to cross my fingers with that sump plug. I'll know fairly quickly. I think if it suddenly spews oil everywhere, then I know I'm in serious trouble. But it's just one of those things. Again, I may have to PTFE it or something. If that happens, all I'll do is I'll just drain the oil back out and then pour it back in afterwards. It's fine. Let's try and get this undone. So my day would probably be complete if this somehow self-destructed as well. And I think the odds of this being the right bloody filter, given everything else that's just happened, are remote, quite frankly. Suppose we'll soon find out, won't we? Right. Yeah, clearance for that's a bit crap, I must say. Okay, well, that doesn't look like it's been off for a long time. Yeah, lovely. Right, so that's the existing filter. Just tilt you up a bit. Let's go and compare it with the new one. Well, the good news is I think the oil filters are a match, so at least I've managed to do that stage of things without cocking stuff up too severely, which is nice. So let's get this in. Right. Bear with me a second, folks, I'm still a little bit flustered by what's happening with the sump plug. But that's cheap cars for you, unfortunately. So I tell you something now, if it needs a sump, that's going to kill me. I'm going to give up, certainly for doing this for this weekend. So, but then again, I guess this is why people record videos like this. So if you do one of these and you feel like the sump plug's not backing out properly, stop, wind it back in and try it again, because that's probably what I failed to do. I need to give this inner ring where that seal sits a bit of a clean. Okay, that's the new seal with a little bit of oil on just to help lubricate things. Okay, there we go, and that's now ready to screw back into the car. What? Is just nip that up. It really does not need to be mega tight. I'm not getting the bloody torque wrench on it though, because it's a plastic housing. It doesn't need to be super duper tight. I'm slightly less concerned about it because it's going into a metal housing. If that was a plastic cup going into a plastic housing, then I might be a little bit more concerned. That'll do. That's tightened up. Right, I suppose we ought to put some oil in this now and see if any of it actually stays in the bloody engine. Right, now I've poured a bit in, I'm just going to have a look underneath. If you hear swearing, then you know I'm in trouble. I hear dripping. Maybe that's just internally within the engine. Doesn't seem to be any coming out past the sump plug just yet. Okay. At least I know it holds oil in that capacity anyway. Right. I just have to hope it doesn't dump it all the second we start the engine, which is the other possibility. See, tune in to me for a highly optimistic outlook on things. See the trouble with these bottles. Struggling to see how much I've put in so far. Right, okay, let's just keep putting some in. The early days yet. Oh, let's try whacking some of this stuff in, which I think is rather gloopy. In fact, I don't think I need the funnel for this. In fact, I think the funnel is going to slow me down quite substantially. Yeah, it is. How much we've got left in there? Just under a litre. I don't think we should be very far off, to be honest with you, having enough oil in it to do a first start. Okay. So okay, that's on the first. Can't see there. So that's on the first two bottom steps on the sump. So I think what I'm going to do is start it up, run it for a few seconds, make sure the oil pressure light goes out, and then I'll have a look underneath, check the level again, and then I'll run it for 5-10 minutes ago and see if the sump plug leaks, and if it does, then I'm in serious trouble. Right, let's check that level again. that seems to be right on the bottom again now. Looking at that. So, I'll drop a little bit more of the friction modifier in, because I think not quite put in all of that I'd planned to. Right. Missed. Of course I missed. It's now showing just under halfway. So I'll do a better job of cleaning and tidying all this up later. I think the thing to do now is I'm going to run it for 10-15 minutes and I'm just going to see if anything leaks, and if it does then I'm just going to go somewhere and cry. If it doesn't, then I might take it out for a drive later on tonight when there's little or no traffic about, and I'll take a bottle of oil with me, but I won't go too far in it, I don't think, until I'm confident that that sump plug is not going to suddenly just drop out. Right. I think we're good. Right, start her up and run her for a bit, see how she sounds. Right, so we're now running again, and it's yappity tappeting away. I'm keeping a very, very close eye on the sump plug. You can probably just about make out that extra crush washer I've added, so I'm hoping that's going to be sufficient to keep the plug in and stop it from leaking. But we'll have to see how it does. If it doesn't, then it's new sump time, and to be honest with you, I haven't got time for that, so I'm probably going to have to go out and see if I can locate my sister another car. It's going to be a real bummer for me financially, but you know, these things do happen. Yeah, I'm going to let it idle for a bit and then check the level again and see how we look. So, I have just been out for a quick spin in the Corsa, and I can report two things. One, it still sounds like a bag of nails when it's cold, so unfortunately I don't think the oil stabiliser or the 1040 is going to make much difference to the noise it's making at the moment. And it also appears that my crafty little solution of using the washer for the sump so far is working, but I need to keep a very close eye on that because obviously that's not how it's meant to go on. As far as I can tell, I think what's probably happened to it is that whoever's last done an oil change has completely over tightened it, and because of the way the thread works on it, let's see if I can find the other one that I took off the car, because the new one's in at the moment. There it is, it's down there on the floor. So basically, from what I can gather, let's try not to stand in the pile of oil, you might be able to see out the very bottom of the sump plug there isn't a thread. Well, the problem is that the very last part of the thread as you go into the sump has been stripped out, and that's because this has been over tightened. So because the thread doesn't run all the way to the bottom of the plug, it means that when you over tighten it, what you can do is strip out the top part of the thread and the bottom part will be intact, and that explains why it was hard to unthread, because as I started to take it out, there was all the thread at the top was already all mangled and knackered, and then as I pulled it out, it took that thread out with it. So like I say, what I've done is I've put a little crush washer in, which has just added a little bit of thickness, and it means that the sump plug is actually holding on the thread slightly further down than it's designed to. Again, that's not an ideal solution. I'm hoping it's going to stay. I've just taken it for probably about a 20-mile drive, and it still seems to be holding on okay. But like I say, I'm going to take the car out tonight. I'm going to put a full tank of fuel in it, and I'm going to do a bit of extended driving, because I won't be able to sleep until I know whether or not that car's going to leak oil or not, because it obviously is going to significantly impact what I do otherwise. If it does continue to leak oil, well, I've got a couple of options. I could try taking the plug out, I suppose, and putting some PTFE around it. I could just try putting some ATV around the plug. I suppose that's another option. It's ugly, but it will work. Or worst case scenario is I'll clean everything up with JB Weld steel stick, and I'll just do that on the basis that it's probably going to have a replacement sump anyway in order to fix that thread. So yeah, kind of gutted. That is the DIYist's worst nightmare, really, when it comes to plugs. And like I say, that there's a little bit of me. Like I say, I keep looking at this plug, and there seems to be some black stuff around it, and I do wonder, in addition to the seal, and I do wonder whether it was stripped out the last time, because it looks like this plug has had some serious force applied to it in the past. Looking at the actual threads itself, I wonder whether whoever did it last wound up just bunging some sealant around it to get it to seal. So yeah, like I say, not ideal, not really the outcome I wanted tonight, but hopefully persevering with that has sorted it out. I need to clean up that mess, and then, like I say, I'm going to get changed, probably have a cup of coffee first before I go anywhere, try and wind down a bit, and then put some extended mileage on the car and see how we do. So I probably will put a little addendum note on the back of this, but thank you very much for watching. Please do consider subscribing before you go, and the next video will probably be, assuming of course, like I say, we don't have some form of sump disaster later on this evening, will probably be the clean up and just getting it ready to get over to that family member. So thanks very much, and cheerio.